let's go ahead and get started. If people join in, obviously they'll have the recording they can view later, as well as we'll always answer any questions they might have or catch them up to speed later. So welcome to our webinar for today. We're going to be talking about conflict resolution in the Salesforce space for admins and for devs. That's something of a rarity when we can combine these two roles into a single workflow and give them both some goodness in the same tool. So we'll be talking about that, going a little in depth, and letting you ask any questions you might have about how that works. You'll notice I have some other people from Salto here today. So I'm Dan Putman. I'm a customer engineer, which means I get to handle demos, webinars, things like this, dealing directly with customers and their integration of Salto. We have Sagi on the call, handles marketing and all things Salesforce with our community. And then Adam is here as well. He is a proper engineer as opposed to me, who just fakes one on TV. So he leads a lot of our Salesforce product work. I'm sure between the three of us, we can probably answer just about any question you throw at us. If you do stump us, however, I'm sure Sagi will send you some swag. So if you don't mind, in the chat, since we have a smaller group today, if you want to let us know what your roles are in your current Salesforce team, that'd be great as we go through this. That'll give us a little context from the questions you might be asking. So go ahead and do that at any time, but let's go ahead and dive in, go through a couple of slides here about how Salto approaches conflict resolution and moving changes in Salesforce. And then we'll do a demo. We'll actually show you how it works. So Salto's mission, and in the broader scope of things, is how can we bring DevOps practices, this thing that's been refined over decades in the software space, how we can bring that into the biz app space for everyone on the team, be it a dev, be it an admin, be it release manager, all these different roles. How can they play together and work together to be more efficient? So that's what we're trying to do, whether it be in the Salesforce space or in other applications. We're actually quite broad. The mission remains the same. And critical to that is conflict resolution, right? When you're playing in a space with a bunch of other people, be it in a sandbox, be it in a test environment or in production, conflicts are going to happen. You want to be able to pull those out. You want to be able to see them, give visibility into them. And you want to be able to resolve them. Worst case scenario, as I'm sure you've all run into, is when you don't know that there's a conflict there and you just blow it away, right? You fire it up. Hey, I made my change. It's working like I should. And I completely obliterated someone else's work in the next environment. So terrible feeling that shouldn't be too hard to elevate, but it happens all the time. So what can we do in these spaces? Well, number one, when you're building in Salesforce, you might be building within the UI. You might be building within FSDX. You might be, within Visual Studio and deploying via SFDX. So, you have this hybrid approach a lot of times where you have multiple people in different environments, all trying to affect the same thing. You might have change sets, FSDX, some hybrid of that. So how do we bring this together? How do we avoid stepping on each other's toes? Well, for admins, there really isn't anything out of the box that's gonna let you change things in the UI and see if anything is gonna be damaged when you promote to the next environment. It just sees changes and it's gonna send them. So what you get here when you use a Salto is you get conflict resolution alongside of the ability to revert and restore things that might have gotten broken, to cherry pick changes that you don't get when you're doing change sets. All this goodness you see here is layered on top of the current Salesforce experience. So this is all great. There's a lot of stuff you get when you're doing FSDX, right? You have the power of Git. You have some of these other tools. We bring that to the admins. And then for the devs, you get to continue working the way you do. And then you get some additional nice stuff in here, like the ability to do backup and restore and revert, especially along not just metadata, but say data deployments like CPQ configurations that are record-based, database configs. Salto supports the ability to deploy those and get backup and restore and conflict resolution. Things that frankly prove difficult out of the box without a tool like Salto. So given all this, what does it look like? How easy can it be, right, to get conflict resolution layered on top of your experience today? Well, we're going to walk through two scenarios. One of the key ones is when I've got multiple dev boxes, right? Multiple people working in the development environment and then coming into a single combined environment, right? It's absolutely a best practice, right? Work in isolation, then merge in a test environment. So I'm going to show that today, working in an Apex class that I've already set up. And then the other scenario that people probably run into is when you're going from, say, a UAT, that combined test environment, you've done your testing, and then you go to production. And what if there's a production change or a hot fix that's occurred that hasn't been back promoted? So now you have a conflict with something that's really dangerous, a production change that conflicts with the work you've been doing in development, right? Both of these are important in different ways. And what's equally important is how you get there, right? Is it a code change? Is it a change in the metadata configurations? Salto's going to handle all that and make it very clear what's happening and how to fix it. I'm going to take a breath and see any questions, any clarifications we need from our attendees today. No? Okay. So we'll dive into the demo. Key for this is ask any questions you have as they come up, whether it's me, Adam, Sagi, we'll hop right on them and we'll get them while they're fresh. Because I guarantee that if you have the question, there's probably somewhere between 2, 3, and 100 other people that have the question. So ask away, please. All right. So scenario one is where we're going to go from those dev orgs working into a shared environment, and how do we handle that conflict that's going to occur in an Apex class. So let's hop over to my environment. So you're looking at Salto right now, and I've already made some changes in my orgs. So I've got a dev org, DP dev here. I've done a number of deployments, been testing some other things out. I have a QA environment and a production environment. Dev is a standard, dev org, isolated, no one else is working in there. QA is our combined org, where everyone comes to test and make sure our stuff all works together. Production, just what it sounds. It's our production org. So in this case, in dev, I've already made a deployment from dev into QA of my customer engineering Apex class. So you see, I've pushed a change in to QA, and I can go actually explore that change using our impact analysis. So I'll go with customer engineering. So my customer engineering Apex class, sorry, wrong one, click here. So you can see real quick that I've got a customer engineering class. I have a number of methods in here. So get accounts, leads, and ops for my customer engineers. So a number of things have been added. They're in QA already, right? Looks good. This is what I intended. I did an org-to-org deployment of this, and it works great. But what happens now? I've pushed these changes into QA. What happens when someone comes along and tries to do an FSDX deployment from their org into QA, and it conflicts with these changes that I've made? What's that look like? How do I handle it? And you'll notice that these are actually two separate types of deployments, in org-to-org and FSDX. Salto is going to handle these seamlessly. So let's go ahead and have a look. So I'm someone else. Imagine I'm Adam, actually doing some work, coming in to conflict with my work. And he's going to ask for an FSDX deployment. So I've got a pull request open. Go ahead and grab my changes and please deploy that into QA. So Salto is going to take his pull request, look at the org. So you'll notice we're not using a branch as the source of truth. We're going to look at the actual org. So we're going to, even if that branch is out of date, we're going to look at the source of truth, the org, and determine, are there any conflicts here between my PR and the org? And then when this comes up, hopefully we have a conflict. You won't hear that very often, but for the demo, I do hope. I do indeed have a conflict, one that has not been resolved. It's on the content, so it's actually on my class, so in the code. Let's open this up and click resolve to see what's going on here. You'll notice that Salto is going to open us up into this nice 3 view to look at our conflicts and what's changing here. First up is, this is a standard developer kind of view, right? When you're in Git, you're able to see changes, what changes occurred in Adam's world over here, and then what changes are in the target environment in QA. So I can easily see what's going on, and Salto automatically looks at these and can see, oh, Dan added this new method that Adam doesn't have yet in his code. So we didn't back promote, he doesn't have it. But you'll notice Salto only has one conflict. It just detects that we conflicted on our SQL here. So where he added email to his SQL criteria, and I'm adding company, it detects that as a conflict and says this needs to be resolved down here. Everything else is auto merged. His changes, my changes, whatnot. So let's go ahead. If I wanted to, down here, I could take my changes. So you see, Adam's changes, and do email. I could take Dan's changes, which are already in QA, and take address, company. Or I could take both, which doesn't make much sense in this case because it's going to give me both lines. I don't want 2 selects in my SQL query. So I can actually go ahead and edit this manually as well. So these are all options for determining how I would like to resolve this conflict. So I can add in both company and email to my selection and say, that looks good. Maybe I'll ping Adam on Slack and make sure, hey, does this look right to you? Yeah, it does. Great. Let's apply this. Salto now has the updated code here. I can apply the conflict resolution. And now Salto will revalidate this prior to deployment. So the key pieces are Salto gives us visibility into the conflict. It only shows us what's important, right? What's actually in conflict, as opposed to all of the changes that have occurred in these files. And then it gives me all the options I need to edit it, get it to the right state, and then push it into my QA environment. Let's go ahead and fire that off. Salto will deploy, make a record of it. And I should note that automatically it's going to push that new version into Git. After the deployment's done, it's going to create a backup so that I can revert this deployment. I can also restore this deployment and cherry pick changes. All this is happening seamlessly in the background so I can recover from any mistakes now or in the future. So a lot of protections you'll notice are being put around your process. So now we've got deployed. Yep, all looks good. I can see my updated SQL query, and I'm good to go. This is where I take that breath again and open it up to questions. Do we have any devs on the call where this is critical for them, where they're changing code often and conflicting with other members of the team? And if so, what do they think? Okay.
I guess we got a lot of devs in the mix today.
That's okay. That's okay. If you're not a dev, guess what? This next one is going to be for you. So that's why we're doing 2 scenarios today, which is perfect. If you have any questions about this next one, type them away in the Q&A and we will get them answered. So I showed you code. Great. Fabulous, Dan. Doesn't help me. What happens if I make a change to a flow or a class or something, something that's in the UI, it's pure metadata, and I go to push it and I'm conflicted, right? How do we handle that? Well, thank you for asking. If I want to go to QA to production, I've already made a change to a flow in both these environments. So my flow started in one state. I made an edit to QA. So I wanted to update my flow. In this case, it is a flow doing a setting of a tier. I think it's of a lead tier. And I wanted to be on a certain tier. And so when in production went and switched to another tier. So now when I try to push into production, if no one tells me there's a conflict, I could blow away their changes without even knowing it. So let's go ahead and have a look at that. For this, I'm going to use a change-based deployment. So Salto is able to make so intelligently look at what are the latest changes in an environment in a given time frame, and only give me those options to deploy to dev or deploy to production. Super handy for filtering down to exactly what I've been changing recently and make your decisions around deployments much, much easier and much, much smaller, right? So I'm not looking at the whole ocean trying to pick out my individual pieces. So I made this change earlier today. So I made it this morning while I was setting up for this demo. And I'm going to go to production. So let's go to Salesforce production. And this is going to be my flow update. Let's go ahead and create that deployment. Salto is going to look for these differences that I've created in QA for this demo. So instead of looking at everything that's created in the past year or so of doing demos, we're going to look here. And then I'm going to get the option. You'll see here, I've even picked up on my Apex class. So you remember earlier, we were making changes. There's that change I just made, right? It's been made since this morning. But what I care about is my flow update that I made manually this morning. So if I go look, Salto says, okay, we're going to change my tier to mid-market. Used to be startup. I want to switch it to mid-market. Okay, that makes sense. That's exactly what I expect. So let's grab that change. I'll check and make sure I don't have any missing dependencies. Looks good. All right, let's go ahead and preview this deployment. So what's going to happen now is that Salto is going to prepare this deployment. And if I set everything up correctly, and I do have this hotfix change in production, I'm going to get another conflict. Again, don't say that very often. I hope I'm conflicted. In this case, Salto tells us, right, won't let us move forward until we resolve it, and hop right to where that conflict is. Okay, enterprise, that's kind of an interesting decision here. Let's go see what happened. So I changed to mid-market. They changed it in production to enterprise, which I think is kind of a silly choice. So I could accept my changes and go to mid-market. I could keep the production changes with enterprise. So these are both options, right? I can select either one, or I have the option to edit manually and go to another value. So I actually have like a small business is another option if I wanted to do that. In this case, I'm going to accept my changes because I actually have an approved ticket. I don't know if someone fat fingered this enterprise change or whatnot. I'll check with the team. Looks good. I'll hit apply. And now everything works exactly the same as it did before, where I've updated this. I've resolved the conflict. I can apply it, go right into my deploy, send it to production, and get the same protections of revert, restore, backed up to Git. All of that happens now with the click of a button. So we'll let this go. Let you actually see that it goes through 100%. And then we'll see the reactions of the admins here on the call, hopefully. And yes, you do get the animations for free. There's no upcharge for the cute animations. I will let you know that. There we go. So now we've pushed that flow. We've resolved the conflict. So I can see that I have moved from enterprise to mid-market, and everything is backed up. So any questions, reactions to what you're seeing here, either flow for devs or for admins? Okay. Adam and Sagi, did I miss anything? I get talking, I miss things. What else is there to add?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, go ahead, Adam.
think just one little thing, like you mentioned the auto merge on the code, on flows and other metadata stuff, we also have auto merge. It's not if you both change the same flow, it will be a conflict. It's only if it's in on the same value. I think that's also.
Very good call out. Yep. Excellent. Sagi, anything at wrap up that you like to say? I always like to call out that if anyone wants to try it, they can go to our website. We have free trials, but what do you like to say at this point?
Well, I would like first to thanks everyone who joined us. We are making a lot of effort um, to make features that are usually reserved to Git, reserved to people with the more technical background. We're trying to make them accessible to the less technical folks out there, to admins. So we have this one out in the product, but we also have other stuff, as Dan mentioned before. So feel free to join the trial to try it out. And if you want a more customized demo that is gonna be better tailored for your team structure and how you used to work, let us know and we're happy to coordinate. And
Amazing.
thanks, Dan, for the comprehensive demo.
My pleasure. All right, we'll leave it there for today. As always, any questions, please, please, please reach out. That's what we're here for. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining, and we'll hopefully talk to you soon. Bye now.